Okay, this is a call-in show to trans people. You don't have to you don't have to tell a date you're trans. I hope that's just their opinion because it's wrong. But anyway, we'll get into this.
Yeah, I actually posed this question to Jimmy a while ago, but now that I'm in North Dakota, it's a lot more conservative, and I wanted to pose this question to people who are also trans. So, just for context, I'm a trans man. I've been trans for quite a while, and I live stealth. I've had top and bottom surgery and all that fun. So, I guess my question was, when should someone who's trans, I guess, tell someone they're dating that they're trans without it being, both too late but also too early in the...
Immediately. You have to tell them immediately. Because people deserve to know. They want to know, are you who you present you are?
Relationship. Because now, especially that I have gone through the process of transitioning, a lot of my friends have said, oh, don't worry about it, so I'm pretty privileged in the form of his passing and stuff at this point. But it's like, well, obviously, if I'm dating someone, I have to be, I don't want to,
Yes,
even if I say I don't want kids, I still want to be honest with them. And I'm wondering what a good middle ground has been for you guys.
Wow. You're a person who wants to be honest in a relationship. Well, good. That's good to know.
Your experience. And I should clarify, I do mostly date like cisgender women. So I don't know if it matters, but...
No, yeah. I think in the...
Just before she gets going, if you're a trans man dating cisgender women, it all depends on what are they getting what they want. Women select for status and service and provision. So if you're a trans man who lives in a mansion and drives a Rolls Royce, the woman might not care because she's not in it for your body. Women don't marry men for their bodies.
So I think there's a nuance here, right? I think in your instance, I think it's less of an issue because if you're dating cisgender women, there's less of a threat to like your safety, probably, at least a decreased risk to your safety from that individual.
Really? So it's less of an issue, being honest, because this woman has less ability to hurt you. I mean, the question is whether dishonesty is right or wrong. So what kind of person are you if you're only being honest because you fear consequences? Also, I disagree that the woman can't hurt you. Women commit violence via proxy. So if that woman starts signaling that and calling you names and saying this trans woman is a freak or whatever, or trans man, you can get beaten up by white knight males.
So like typically I would say like you don't owe anyone that information at all, in my opinion.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. People want to know if they're getting what you're signaling as. Straight men want to get together with women. And they don't want to, especially men, because like I say, the women, they want provision and status, but men want the woman's time, their intimacy, and their bodies. So it's especially important that trans women are honest about their trans.
I think it's generally a good idea before you have sex with someone to let them know, because I do think it's possible that it could be an issue, and they do have the right to make a decision about that, even if they're going to be a fucking bigot about it.
No. Sorry. I'm not sure what your name is, but men do not owe you they do not owe you their preferences. Men are allowed to have their sexual preferences. That's what this is about. Look, do you believe in the religious pray the gay way? No, because that's religious people saying to gay people, whether men or women, that your preferences for the same sex doesn't apply, that they should get over it and like the opposite sex. I don't think you would ever say that. So it's the same with the straight men. Straight men do not need to get over their and change their preferences just for you.
They have the right to be a bigot.
Yep.
But, you know, at the same time, like, that's your medical history, you know, and like, fuck anyone who's gonna like try to force that out of you. I think you.
But they're not asking this guy about their medical history. They're asking, were you born a man or not? But it's especially important for guys because they want to know if the person is going to surprise them with male body parts. A straight man cannot turn gay. And even if they could, they don't, they're not obligated to turn gay just to get together with a trans woman who might still have male body parts. If you have male body parts, that's going to be a turn off to straight men. So it's not up to them to get over that.
When you feel like telling someone, you should tell someone.
You don't think it's too late to wait a date or two, or you don't have to slap it on your profile?
Oh no, definitely not.
Absolutely not.
Like I know quite a few. I know more stealth trans women than trans men, just because I talk to more trans women.
Not just that. There is reason, again, like I said earlier, a trans man can come out with a mansion and a Rolls Royce, can come out to a straight woman and say, I'm a trans man. And she won't necessarily toss him aside because she's not choosing him for his physicality, for his body. But men do. Men choose women for their physicality. So this is just the case.
But it's quite common for them to wait like 3 or so dates before bringing it up, and I think this is a constant battle. Like I've tried both ways and both kind of shit.
But you see, that's wasting a man's time. This is a huge difference too. Men jump through hoops to get with women, but not the other way around. So if this trans man is going 3 dates with a woman, she's not really losing anything, but maybe her time, some of her time. But a guy who's dating a trans woman, he's paying, he's putting a lot of effort, he's putting his money into it, as well as time. And it means something to him. He wants intimacy and sex from this person. Right? So the man loses out way more chasing chasing women than women do chasing men. So guys don't want to waste 3 dates when they begin going for someone that they actually like, who they actually prefer. So the last thing you should do is screw a guy around waiting, for 3 dates, let alone when you surprise them with sex.
You either tell people up front and then it filters most people out, but then it might filter out some people who just need to get to know you and then realize that, people have preconceptions about trans people and they're often bullshit and they're often broken down as soon as they met you. Well, and then on the other hand, at least if you...
Why can't you tell them up front and then get them know them later? You know what I mean? Like, look, if you're in a community where everyone knows you're trans, then eventually any guy that approaches you already knows. So there's no issue. He's into it, or at least willing to give a try. But what is there to gain surprising some guy who believes you were always a woman and always had, never had male body parts? There's nothing to gain.
You filter everyone out first, then you don't get the heartbreak of telling someone and them having an issue with that. I think, like, from a dating
So you're saying that you don't want to deal with rejection. Well, I'm sorry, but the average straight guy deals with rejection constantly on all levels. So, I mean, this is just the way it is. Why should it be any different for trans people?
Point of view, it's difficult to know, but like Arden says, like you shouldn't be legally or morally required to tell them like before you meet them or like before one date or after one date. I think that's bullshit. And will just disagree with Arden on a moral point here. I think if you're I think legally it should not be legally required in any situation. I think if you were like marrying someone and you hadn't told them you're trans, which by the way
Yeah.
has happened for some people, but I think if you
Can you imagine the betrayal of marrying someone and then they say they're trans? For one thing, what's so immoral about it is when the man has no rights in his marriage. Women have all the rights in marriage. So if a man finds out you're trans and goes berserk and wants to get out of it, how is he getting out of it? The trans woman might be able to make him pay alimony. And now he's paying this person that he doesn't want anything to do with. How is that moral?
if you don't do that, like, this is someone who you want to build a life with. And I personally would share everything from my life. And I understand that some people don't do that, but I just think it's a bit dodgy. If you're dating for a few months, maybe, like when you start getting close, you might want to share it. If you have a one night stand with someone, you're not obliged to tell them. I don't think legally or morally you're.
Then why are you worried about the issue of getting in trouble? If you have a one night stand with a man and he finds out, if you either have male body parts or the surgery just doesn't work for him. The sad part is science is not caught up to really converting someone perfectly over into the next sex. So if he looks at that and gets grossed out, I mean, yes, he could become violent. So why would you do that to him? What is the point? What's the gain? Why wouldn't you be out front? Then he wouldn't be surprised. It's an ambush. No one deserves. What person, when a guy gets together on a one night stand, he's opening himself up. He's becoming vulnerable to someone, and he's trusting that vulnerability with you people, with the opposite sex. So it's a complete betrayal. Of course they're going to get upset. You're doing the person wrong. You've never been upfront.
Obliged to. I think it's like, for sure some people would have an issue with a trans person, but like there are a whole load of nonsense things that I could guess that someone has an irrational issue about, like, oh, maybe you have an issue with left-handed people. Like, do I have to guess? If you've got an issue with sleeping with trans people, then you've got to know some trans people you can't clock, and therefore you just need to ask everyone who you ever talk to.
That's a bad analogy. Being left-handed does not make you unappealing.
Whether they're trans or not, because it's your problem. So that's my position on that issue. But yeah, I don't think.
Can I ask you two ladies something? Do you back up pickup artistry? Like, if pickup artists are demonized, why are they demonized? Because they fake high status, right? Some of them, like if a pickup artist shows up in a rented Rolls Royce and pretends that he has money and wealth, that attracts women because women want his wealth and status. And then there's one night stand, and then she finds out he's broke. Women get upset, and society backs them, by the way. So if what you're saying about yourselves as trans, if you're backing that, like just keeping that away from, from the person you want to date, then you should back pick up artistry. But I bet you're not going to. I bet you believe that the women should know the man's income and whether he's putting on a fake face or not. People expect men to be 100% honest about everything that is important to the woman. So just the same, you men want the same thing. They want honesty up front.
Like having 3 dates and telling someone, I think is totally legit. I think that's fine. I can't tell you what's the best thing to do.
It's not legit. Because if I was dating you, I'd be pissed. I said, why are you wasting my time? Assuming that doesn't even mean that I wouldn't be amenable to it. Maybe like this young lady, I think she has a beautiful face. Maybe I'd be into it. But if I'm not, then I deserve to know rather than be jerked around. I can say, oh, you're a nice person. I'd like to hang around you, but I don't want to date you because that inevitably leads to physical intimacy, or at least I want it to. Right?
I just want to clarify that although I said you don't have to tell anyone. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to have a relationship with someone, starting on a foundation of keeping information from them is going to cause issues in the future, and it has a potential to hurt someone's trust. But like, I don't think that you owe them that necessarily. I think there's other considerations to like how it could impact the relationship to consider. But like, yeah, you definitely should not feel like obliged in like a moral sense to tell them. It's more about like what kind of relationship you're trying to form with the people that you're seeking out.
Sorry, this is you're contradicting yourself. It's either lying to someone is good or it isn't. You know, the relationship in the future, the relationship would be the immediate future in this case. Well, maybe not this trans man, because like I said, the women want different things. But I'm speaking for men. And a man, if he finds trans women gross, that's his business. He can't change around just for you. So if you turn around and surprise him and ambush him, you know, in the moment of intimate sex, he's going to go ballistic. You know, it's going to be a visceral reaction on his part because it's betrayal.
Yeah.
Oh, I got another question too. Like, suppose the guy who's jumping through endless hoops to get with the girl, what if he's a virgin and it's his first time? Can you imagine? Can you imagine how that would? Guys place everything on their first time. If someone found out, they would hold it over his head till the day he died.
Yeah, so within a few dates, it'd still be probably morally fair, right?
Totally.
I think that's totally fine.
Breach of trust or anything.
Sorry?
Say again?
Oh, I said like within a few dates or something would probably be on the edge of not being like a breach of trust or leading anyone on.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's the same with any personal information. Like, you wouldn't go on like a first date with someone and, you know, like start telling them that you've had a traumatic childhood, or, you know, like that's not always first date material. You want to meet up and see.
But it is in this case because you're talking about the immediate future. Just as soon as that person gets naked with you. And the more time you waste leading him up to it, the more visceral the action, you know, the reaction is going to be. This is common sense.
See if you vibe, and then maybe on your second date you like discuss your interests and stuff. Like, medical history isn't the stuff that you come out with, like, you know, you don't like shake hands with someone and be like, hi, I had my appendix out when I was 17. Like,
but this is not about medical history. This is, are you what you say you are and who you say you are? To a man, a woman's physicality is everything. So if you're not that, if you still have male body parts, if you can't, if you're not looking like a woman physically when you're naked, he's not getting what he wants out of the deal. And you're not giving it to him. Like I said, straight men are straight. So they're not going to get into male body parts if you have those. Or even, surgery that doesn't succeed at really converting you over.
Maybe you would want to tell them before you get married because it's a part of your history, but it's, it's quite possible that you will tell them and they will act like you've been deceiving them and it can make you doubt yourself. But that's just not true. And it's just a bullshit transphobic reaction. Trans people like deceiving people.
Yeah, and actually a quick follow-up question. Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Well, you admitted that, more trans women go under the radar. So there is deception.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So my follow-up question would be is if you did say tell them on the third date, what would the best way to bring it up be?
Yeah, okay, so this is an interesting thing.
Just be like, I'm a tranny, mate. No, sorry.
I think this kind of relates to the analogy that I was going to bring up just a second ago. People often do this kind of thing, and they think of, if I weave together all the right words in the right way, maybe I can convince a person who would otherwise not be okay with it to be okay with it. And the fact of the matter is, you can't control their reaction. You can't control how they're going to feel about it at all. So I don't think there's really a best way to tell them. I think the best thing you can do is say, hey, I have something to tell you. I'm transgender. And
there is a best way, though. You do it immediately. You don't string them along. You gals would not back a man who was stringing a woman along. Remember the old days where guys would, string a woman along by saying, hinting that they might get married? Back in the day, of course, when women cared about that. And then he didn't turn out marrying her. I mean, society would actually punish that guy. That's what shotgun weddings were about. So do you think that there's not going to be punishment for trans people? Or just because it's a woman doing it to a guy, then things are good? Then there shouldn't be any punishment?
And let them react how they're going to react.
Probably
and
not treat it like
maybe.
I
think if you come in. Yeah, exactly. If you come in treating it like it's a burden, like something really serious, like they're probably almost certainly going to reject you the second they tell you, you're kind of sowing the seeds for the disaster in the beginning. If you come in and just say, I have information to give you, it's not that serious to me, but you definitely deserve the right to know if we want to keep this going. And that's blah. And then if the way they react sucks, then you can be like, cool, that person was not for me. And you can sit with how that might make you feel if it hurts a little. But you can't control other people, and you're going to have a way more successful relationship in the long run if you give them the freedom to react how they're going to react.
Yeah. So be upfront. Yeah. No kidding. Look, ladies, men put a lot of effort and time, and they put their money, and more than that, they put in their mental health into this chasing. So I mean, they lose so much more than the women do. Frankly, in my opinion, men should stop chasing, period, because it's just there's nothing to gain from it, really. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I whenever I've presented it as information to people, I always just try and make sure it's not a big deal. When I've written it on my dating profile, I'm just like, I am Katie and I'm a trans woman and here's all my things about me. I was going to read out my dating profile then. That's not a good idea. But, you know,
Also, you brought up being abused as, you know, saying the example of, you know, I was abused as a child, not being appropriate for the first date. But saying you're trans is important to the first date, for men especially, because it's about the immediate future. It's about what the guy wants in life. It's his preferences. Are you giving him what he wants in the relationship? So the analogy doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it's good to just, yeah, like Arden says, just present it as a fact, because that's it. It's just like, you know that they might reject you, and you've just got to be ready for that, and it can be very upsetting. But I don't think going in bracing for that to happen is going to help anyone. So,
yeah. That help? That answer your question?
Being prepared to. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I think that, and you know, being willing to answer questions or talk about it more within reason,
yeah,
whatever you're comfortable with, can probably help the situation too.
So I've said to people before, like, you know, just so you know, I'm a trans woman, and you know, if you would like to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it. And if you want some time, then we can have some time. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's also fine. Like, that's cool, whatever. Because sometimes you might tell someone and they might have a load of questions and then feel like they can't ask them. And really, if you're going to be in a relationship, then you might want to, you know, might want to ask some questions. So I think it's okay to just make it clear that you're open, or just see how they react first. You know, like, by the way, I'm trans, and they might be like, oh, okay. And then you're like, and if you wanted to talk about it, that's cool.
The thing is, again, unlike other conditions, you know, it's not like, oh, this happened to me or whatever. You're talking about the dating scene where it's important up front, right? So there's no getting away from this. You have to be upfront in this case, because it's about being honest, because men want, you know, certain things. Are you going to give them what they want in the relationship, or aren't you? You know, yeah, rejection hurts. I agree. But we all have to go through with it if we want to bother getting in a relationship.
Cool. And if you don't, it'll be good to see you on another date, you know, whatever.
Oh, one other thing. You gals know there are guys who are into trans women. So there's no reason why you wouldn't put it out there. Unless it's a case you see a guy you want to be with and you say, oh, I want to be with him so bad, I don't care what he wants. But in general, this is a greater issue for men that goes beyond, you know, trans issue, is that people don't care what the man wants. They think he should change to be whatever they want. People, society see men as servants, as subhuman. So I want you to think about it, girls. What are your preferences? What are your personal preferences? Do you want someone to come to you and say, oh, you like this? Well, you shouldn't like that. You should like this. Do you want people to do that to you? No. So men are in the same boat.
So, yeah, good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for your help. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you
and, yeah, very insightful.
Okay. That's all we need to go here. I like the girls. They seem pretty respectful, but they still expect too much. People expect everything from men, and they don't want to give anything in return, not really. And that's really the issue. This is not so much a trans issue. It's just that what these trans people are talking about actually latches on to the men's greater issue of people thinking that men are not thinking of them. They're actually treating them like subhumans. You don't deserve to like what you like. You know, that's the way that is. Okay, see you around, everybody.